So the one thing that these cacti are great for is when you've got a spot that you just can't get to. Oh yeah, that right there. Yep, perfect. We actually made it to a national park. Saguaro National Park is open. There was even a ranger at the gatehouse, not taking money, but handing out maps and information if we needed it. So we're happy to finally get into a national park during the shutdown. And it is pretty cool. There are saguaros everywhere.
Big ones. And all kinds of other cactus.
Kind of hard to miss. Got some prickly pear, and then a bunch of cactus I saw signs of and didn't remember.
There's the pencil cactus we learned about in Carlsbad. I have not seen any cow's tongue, which we also learned about in Carlsbad.
It's nice to be out in this environment. It's a little different. It's nice and warm. 70 degrees today in Tucson. So Tucson, what do we think of Tucson?
Life.
We've never been to Tucson.
Never been to Tucson.
I like it. It's actually bigger than I thought it would be. We're at the Lazydays KOA by the Lazydays RV dealer. And although the park is nice, it's huge, and unfortunately it's a little on the noisy side. Planes,
planes,
trains,
automobiles out on the highway.
Yeah, the whole gamut. So it's a nice park, but it is noisy. Bring your earplugs.
And there are quite a few people squeezed into there, which usually doesn't bother us, except there's about 100 dogs, and it makes it a tad hard to train our dogs how to behave. So we've had a struggling week on dog behavior.
Dog training, that's right. Hello.
Hi.
But it's been a good stay. We'll move a little bit north tomorrow and find ourselves a little bit colder weather, but we'll be able to go check out Sedona, which would be great because that one is Sedona. That's her namesake. So anyway, yeah, Tucson's been good. We like it. We like the weather for sure this time of year. We'll take it. But because of the weather, there's lots of people in our RV park. I don't know.
Full every night. I think one night there was 2 spaces.
They have hundreds of spots, and they're pretty much all filled. In fact, we're going to Phoenix ultimately, and I tried to get a spot in Phoenix, and there's nothing. It's all either 55 and over, or there's a good handful of places that I kind of ruled out to stay in, and all the ones that were left were booked up. So we did find a nice little spot in a park in Phoenix on the outside of it, so that'll be cool. But keeps us in this weather without snow, and I'm happy about that. So one of the cool things I learned about the saguaros was that they have to reach about 75 years, or to be 75 years old before they even start growing arms. So you see these guys, these are probably only maybe 10 years old, 15, something like that. And then you look further out, and those guys, they're probably well over 75 years old, maybe 150 years old, as far as I know. So yeah. They have to be quite mature before they even get any arms, which is kind of crazy. So Harley and I got a chance to go mountain biking again finally. We went out to Tucson Mountain Park and rode some trails out there among the saguaros. That was a good ride. Luckily, we avoided all of the saguaros, I think, for the most part, right?
Yeah, I brushed them a little bit.
A little bit?
Yeah.
A couple of acupuncture sessions for Harley,
Yes.
but not too bad. But actually, the trail went through some saguaros that are actually pretty close to the handlebars. I was a little surprised that it wound through there, but it made it exciting. We came back in the dark, and it wasn't quite dark enough to put a light on until we got about, 5 minutes from the truck, and it was really pretty dark. I kept seeing these little bushes down on the ground, and it was dark enough that I kept thinking they were something that I was going to hit, like it was a rock, but they were just bushes. So it made it a little bit more interesting than riding in Colorado. But it was a good opportunity to get out. We haven't gotten out too much on this trip, and every chance we get to break them out. So, yeah. I had a good ride. You had a good ride?
Yeah.
Good.
It was a good ride.
So, to many more mountain bike rides. I hope we get some more in the Southwest here as well. Phoenix,
Arizona. Well, we're in Arizona.
Sedona, all of Arizona.
Yeah.
And maybe Southern California. So, yep, finally got them out.
So it's really kind of interesting to come looking at some of these RVs once we've been in one and figured out what doesn't work for us now. So when we first started looking, we thought these bunkhouse, this one has a separate room, but that our son could be in, but an upstairs too, that maybe our daughter could be in. Except now that we've been at this for 5 months, and our son is on the top bunk in the one we have, this is not enough room for teenagers to sit. It'd be fine if you had little kids and they were just coming to sleep at night and they weren't going to play up here or watch videos or anything, but for a teenager, it would be awful. So now we know this is never going to work for us. So at least we're learning on the way what will and won't work.
So you think the thought is novel to be able to squirrel away up there as a kid, but it's not all that useful.
No, you can't even sit up to read a book or
There's a
something.
TV and you can't even do it. And I read a lot and I won't be able to sit up and read.
Yeah.
As soon as we saw it, I was like, that's never going to work. And here we've been thinking a little bit that maybe at one of those bunks in a toy hauler one day might work or something, but there's just no way for either of our kids to sit up in there.
And I used to really want one of these. I'm like,
So
And if you're looking for bunkhouses, keep in mind the height or length of your child. When we first started looking for bunkhouses, he fit in all of the normal bunkhouses. And the reason we bought ours was because we went back out, after starting 2 years prior to actually buying one and seeing bunkhouses that he fit in, we realized after going back out 2 years later that he didn't fit in them anymore. So one of the reasons we bought ours is because there's 2 bunks that make an L, and he actually uses part of the second bunk of that L because he has outgrown the regular bunkhouse length. So part of the difficulty in doing this with teenagers, so something to think about. Just because it's a bunkhouse doesn't mean it's going to fit your kid. Wow, a bunkhouse model that fits Harley. That's pretty cool. It has a good amount of clothing storage.
we can each have a sign.
Yeah. And then the couches that I like, they double as your dinette, but it allows everybody to have their own spot to sit in when we want to watch a movie or some of our favorite channel on YouTube. Oh, the places we'll roll. So here's one of the other things we've realized that we really, really would like that we don't have in our RV. And of course, when you pick an RV, you can't get everything you want. You just have to kind of get as many things as you can to check off your bucket list. But this is definitely a rear living situation where everybody's got their own couch. Is huge when you're living on an RV. We kind of all jockey for the 2 chairs that we have. Sitting in the booth dinette is not great. We knew it wasn't going to be. We were kind of wanting the U dinette because we thought maybe that'll allow itself a little bit better for 4 people. But ideally, we would have, in my opinion, we would have this setup where you have one long couch and the removable tables, which we originally looked at and thought, that's kind of against the whole family eating together thing. But the reality is the dinettes are so small that often we eat 2 to the dinette and 2 on the chairs themselves. So you kind of end up in that situation anyway with 4 grown people. It's kind of different when you have little kids.
Full chairs.
Yeah, in a rear living situation, you'll have a separate dining room table, and that helps out a lot. But this is not the type of rig that you can fit 4 adults in comfortably, because the last thing you want to do is pull out all of these couches and set up a bed every night. It's just not going to happen. All right, here's another thing I would like to change on our RV, and you kind of have to get into fifth wheels and a little bit, spend a little bit more money on them to get this. It's stable steps, and these are a little bit better steps, but watch how they bounce as Sedona walks down them. Now that doesn't seem like a big deal, but when you're laying in bed reading a book and your kid goes to take the dog out to go to the bathroom and your whole rig is bouncing and your book is shaking, it gets a little old night after night.
And then this bottom step here, it's really bouncy. I nearly it's like a diving board.
Yeah.
So yeah, it probably shakes the entire rig, which our stairs, Harley goes down them very fast, so it does bounce, but not as much as this, and you're just going down them normally.
So here's an example of steps you do want. This takes out all the RV shake while somebody's going up and down. So go ahead.
And it's like you're going up an airplane.
Way better. So another big complaint we have about ours, and we knew we would, is the kitchen space. It's really tight. When you're living on board full time and trying to cook, it does get frustrating. This is an example of a very large kitchen. Honestly, it's too much. You don't need this much kitchen counter space. But how crazy. So this is a front kitchen, front dining setup. It has a mid-living room and rear master bedroom in it. There's a lot of seating in the dining room or the living room. There's such a weird configuration. I just don't know if I'd want to give up this much of the rig to the kitchen. But I guess if you love cooking and love entertaining, then this is the one for you. So here's the situation with the master bed. In ours, you can't get around the right side of our master bed. We have about 2 feet on the left side, but that makes getting in and out for the person on the other side very difficult, and making the bed is very difficult. This is an ideal situation where you have a ton of room on either side of the bed, and then plenty at the end of the bed to be getting dressed, to be able to make the bed. It makes a huge difference when you're living full-time on a rig. So definitely something to keep an eye out for while you're shopping. You like the counter space? The large island?
Yes, I do like the idea of an island, just because this is about how much kitchen we have, and I have to do everything like right here. But if I could just turn and chop something over here,
and then you'd have covers
great.
for this.
I like it too because I also spend a lot of time in the kitchen cooking stuff.
An added counter space would be nice, but is what it is.
And I spend time working, and that is a great desk with a view out the back. Of course, your view out the back in an RV park isn't always the best of views, but I don't know what is. This one's got great seating in it.
Very open,
But
no bunks, no place for children.
once again, no bunks. So here's one of the things on our rig that we have and I don't use. I like having an outside camp kitchen, and we use our refrigerator a lot, except we have one that's twice as tall as that, or close to it. We use the refrigerator a lot for drinks and stuff like spinach and that kind of thing. But they're putting cooktops or stoves in these, which I think are useless for outdoor cooking. I would much rather have a grill in this spot than this outdoor stove. The only thing I've ever cooked on the outdoor stove was lobster in Maine, and I easily could have done that inside, but I did it outside just because, in case we had a fishy smell. But yeah, I would rather have a grill. So something to look at. You never, at least in our case, we never use this thing. The sink is kind of nice to have from time to time, but our sink just drains to the ground through a cap. It doesn't even go to our tank. This one looks like it probably does drain to the tank. Yeah, this one drains to the tank, which is kind of nice. because you don't really want to sit there and drain water to the ground in your camp spot. It's kind of weird. So this is what the U dinette does for you compared to the booth dinette. It's a lot more comfortable if two people have to sit in that U dinette versus the booth dinette. So this is cool. We're checking out this Airstream. We've never actually been in an Airstream before. And they're tight because there's no slides, but well appointed. Very, very pretty on the inside. We couldn't figure out where the TV was. Obviously, everybody sits here to watch TV, and there's a Bose soundbar, but no TV and no place to hang a TV. What we realized is that there's a projector here, and then a screen that drops down here. So it's kind of a neat way to set up entertainment in an RV, not have to have a big old honking LCD TV sticking over there.
Allows you to open a window more, you know, like for such a skinny space, there's a lot of windows.
Right. Yeah, normally you'd have a TV blocking that window, or you'd have to make it come up out of the hutch there. But this way allows you to see programming and then put it all away. I like it. That's pretty cool. This is a comfortable rig for two people. It's the Airstream 33FB.
For two people, we'll have to wait till you people move out.
So Harley and I have some time today to do a couple of, well, I was going to say guy things, but I don't know if I call them guy things.
No.
We're going to go check out Trail Dust Town. It's this little mini town set up in Tucson, and apparently you can walk around and live like you're in the Old West. So go see that and see what we can find. I would have liked to go to the Pima Air Museum, and there's a car museum, but we don't want to turn this into the Planes, Trains, and Rockets channel and bore the rest of you and my family. So anyway, we'll go check this out and see what it's all about. As a train passes behind us, maybe we can catch the train. So apparently Trail Dust Town is full of a bunch of privately owned shops, and it's free to walk through, but then there is various shops and restaurants and places to get a bite to eat and a drink, and there's train rides and other little attractions. So we'll see what they are, and those cost extra money, but it's free to walk around and check out the Old West town. I don't know if we got here at the wrong time or what, but a lot of it looks closed. That one says 6 p.m. So maybe it's more of a nighttime thing? We'll find out. Seems to be a recurring theme in our videos, jail time. So on Guy's Day Out, Harley and I both got a little startled by this guy in the corner as we walked into the county jail. We're not gonna lie, we were spooked. No complaining in jail.
No profanity. No loud talk. 2 visits to the outhouse a day.
2 visits to the outhouse a day. I could not have any coffee. I usually knock that out in the first 10 minutes. Okay, you can use it now. The Mini Time Machine of Museum Miniatures.
Yeah.
The Mini Time Machine of Museum Miniatures.
No.
What?
You said of museum miniatures.
The Mini Time Machine of Museum. No, the Mini Time Machine of. What is it?
The mini time machine.
Now we're gonna go see the Mini Time Machine Museum of Miniatures. Okay, I got it out. That is a mouthful. So apparently this place has all these little models, dioramas, little houses and everything. And what I want to see is like the quality of the builds. It looks really cool on the photos on the site. So let's go check it out.
Let me show you a few things that will help you better understand what I mean when I say miniature. It looks real, doesn't it? It's actually quite cozy. There is something special about a well-crafted miniature.
There's a sign in there that talks about how the artists will, for years, measure and scale the objects that they're making, and they will painstakingly take years to complete a piece, and they'll make each individual tiny little piece to the exact scale of an original. It's just amazing the amount of labor hours that are in that museum alone. It's quite impressive.
The addition became too small. 9 years ago, they opened the museum to house her collection. When she had this house in her house, she had spooky sounds coming from between the walls. But for the museum, because it's under glass, she removed the spooky sounds. Over here, the cat got run over, and you see the tire marks on his little back. This is also for Brooke Tucker, from Brooke Tucker, the same lady that made the Christmas scene you just saw. For this was a commission. A couple in Texas commissioned this house from Brooke Tucker. She was in the beginning of her career, so she didn't think of asking for a down payment or a contract. This is very expensive, and it takes well over a year to finish a piece like this. After some of the rooms were finished, the couple called to say they went bankrupt and they could no longer afford the piece. She went into a panic. This was her income for that year. So she started to call collectors. Pat Arnell came to the rescue and acquired the house.
So that was actually really fun. I don't think either one of us knew what to expect going in there. Didn't know if I would like it or not, but I thought it would be intriguing. But it was actually way better than I thought it would be. Definitely a must-see when you're in Tucson. You don't get to see that kind of thing too often. It was a museum of a lady called Pat Arnell, and she was a collector of miniatures and a little bit of an artist herself, but mainly she collected. And she put a lot of the miniatures together in their own houses. So she was kind of an artist in that sense, where she basically put them together and told her own story. And we took the tour, and there was just a huge long story about each piece and a lot of history. There were some pieces that were a few hundred years old in there. And yeah, it was pretty cool. So definitely come check this one out when you get a chance.